As pretty much everyone knows who has been following my Scum's Wish review, I'm very conflicted in how I feel about this series. It's not really an enjoyment factor that keeps me interested, it's more the curiosity of what these characters are going to do next. And I didn't talk about last week, I actually didn't get around to watching episode 9 until later on in the day, which is the day that episode 10 aired, as I just didn't have the drive to watch last week's episode. It's how I feel with Scum's Wish. It's not to the sense of like, I don't want to watch the episode because I don't enjoy it. It's more of, I just don't want to watch the episode because I don't have that hook that's like, I gotta see what happens next week. But then when I eventually get around to watching the episode, I do have a fun time. I guess you could call it a fun time, or at least I'm not bored when I watch the episodes. It's just weird. It's like a really weird feeling I've never had with an anime. When I don't have that drive to watch the next episode, I drop series. But this is one of those weird instances where I don't have the drive to watch the new episodes, but there is this curiosity of what the hell are they gonna do next, kind of a thing. So I guess it is an enjoyment in its own way. But this week's episode 10 of Scum's Wish, it's in a way Akane growing up in her own way, but also Mugi growing up in his own way. They're still children, both of them, in their own way, but it's both of them more or less maturing in a slightly slow way, but there is some sort of maturing going on at the very least. Now, one thing I've always appreciated about Scum's Wish is I felt like Akane as a character at least accepts who she is. I've never looked at Akane and said, oh man, she thinks she's a fine person and is really a horrible slut. She admits she's a slut. In this episode, she literally says that to the male teacher, I was born a slut, this is what I am. And he says, you don't have to change, which is an interesting turn of events because him being the most normal of the characters is fine with her sleeping around with other men. It's a really weird thing, but there is this sort of, I feel like, a subtle level of growth for her character. If she's ever going to lose that sluttiness, it's hard to tell because that's who she is, but she doesn't completely break off the sort of date relationship she has with that male teacher, which is something she's been trying to do all along. She just wants a new person after new person to keep her company to fulfill her own sick desires. So it's interesting how she's changing, if that's her maturing or not. I mean, the next couple of episodes are going to explain that, but overall it was interesting nonetheless to mainly focus on Akane and as well as Mugi's relationship because we really haven't that much throughout the series, so it's interesting nonetheless. But I mean, the whole Mugi stuff, I mean, he knows he shouldn't do this, he knows he's being immature, he knows that she's using him, but he's trying to change her. It's this weird whole dynamic where both of them know that they're just kind of being dumb in their own way, but it's interesting nonetheless. But I have to say, I really think Scum's Wish would have benefited if it was a movie rather than a 12-episode anime series. And the main reason I say this is because there is a lot of side characters and things like that, but I think at the core, really there was only really need for 5 characters, which would be Mugi, Hanabi, Akane, the male teacher, as well as Hanabi's female friend, I forget her name. I think if it was a 1.5 hour to 2 hour movie, only really focusing on those 5 characters, I think it would be, in my opinion, a near perfect series for myself. But I know a lot of people love every single episode of this. For myself, it does just feel a little repetitive at times. I feel like they are dragging certain aspects out or focusing on characters that aren't that interesting, at least for myself. But this episode overall was actually pretty interesting in its own way. I thought still Lurch is killing it with the visuals. This is Lurch's best animated series so far, at least for myself. I really am enjoying it. And I'm interested in what's going to happen next week. I'm not sure if I'll review next week's episode. I mean, I'll definitely review episode 12, the last one, but if I don't have a review for episode 11, don't be shocked, because it's one of those things that I might just wait to watch episode 11 when episode 12 is just around the corner. But I thought overall, this was a fun episode. It was an interesting episode to see. I mean, one thing that was really fascinating is how Akane's inner monologue is the complete opposite of Hanabi's, with hers being a kid and hers actually being an adult in terms of Akane's inner monologue. It's really interesting because Akane is more of a kid in her own way, so it's going to be interesting what they do next week and how ultimately this series is going to wrap up. You would assume Hanabi as well as Mugi are just going to be a normal couple by the time this ends, but only time will tell. But I'd be interested to hear everyone's thoughts. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you think it was just okay? Let me know your thoughts, and be sure to hit that like button to show your support. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.